It was a perfect summer evening, the kind where the air feels electric with possibility. I hadn't planned on going to the county fair that night, but my friends had practically dragged me there, insisting I needed to get out more after my breakup 3 months ago. They weren't wrong, but I still felt that familiar resistance as we approached the fairgrounds. The Ferris wheel illuminated against the darkening sky like a giant, rotating constellation. My name's Alex, by the way. 26, working as a graphic designer at a small marketing firm, and according to my friends, spending far too much time with my cat, Pixel, and not enough time putting myself out there. Whatever that means. The fair had always been a tradition in our small town. Every summer, the empty field on the edge of town transformed into a wonderland of lights, music, and the intoxicating scent of funnel cakes and cotton candy. As a kid, I loved it. As an adult, I found the crowds overwhelming, the noise a bit too much. But there was still something magical about it all, something that made me feel like anything could happen. "Come on, Alex, stop dragging your feet," my friend Jamie called, already several steps ahead with our other friends. "The night is young, and so are we, relatively speaking." I laughed despite myself and quickened my pace. The entrance was a riot of color and sound, with families and couples and groups of friends all streaming through the gates. We paid our admission and stepped into the carnival proper, and I felt a small thrill despite my initial reluctance. The fairgrounds stretched before us, a maze of game booths, food stalls, and rides that spun and twirled against the night sky. "Where to first?" I asked, suddenly feeling a bit more enthusiastic about the evening ahead. "Food," declared Jamie. "I need a corn dog in my life immediately." We made our way to the food area, weaving through the crowd. The fair was busier than I remembered from previous years, with people of all ages enjoying the festivities. There were families with excited children, teenagers in groups, elderly couples holding hands, and people from all walks of life. It struck me how inclusive the atmosphere felt, like everyone belonged here. Everyone was welcome to share in the simple joy of a summer fair. As we stood in line for food, I found myself people watching, a habit I developed over years of observing human behavior for my design work. That's when I first saw him. He was standing at a nearby ring toss booth, his profile illuminated by the colorful lights. Dark hair, slightly tousled, a jawline that could cut glass, and a smile that made something in my chest flutter. He was with friends, laughing at something one of them had said, and I couldn't look away. "Earth to Alex," Jamie said, waving a hand in front of my face. "Your corn dog is getting cold." I blinked, accepting the food with a mumbled thanks, but my eyes kept drifting back to the ring toss booth. As if sensing my gaze, he turned, and for a brief moment, our eyes met across the crowded fairground. He smiled, a small, almost shy smile, and I felt my face heat up as I quickly looked away. "Who are you staring at?" Jamie asked, following my gaze. Oh, he's cute." I wasn't staring, I protested weakly. "You absolutely were," Jamie countered. "And now we're going to go play ring toss." "Wait, what?" "No, Jamie," but it was too late. Jamie was already guiding our group toward the booth, and I found myself being pulled along, heart hammering in my chest. The ring toss booth was decorated with flashing lights and colorful signs promising winners every time. The bottles were arranged in neat rows, their necks gleaming under the lights, looking deceptively easy to ring. The mystery man and his friends were still there, taking turns throwing rings with varying degrees of success. "5 rings, please," Jamie said to the booth operator, slapping down some cash. "Jamie, I don't want to eat." "Who said they're for you?" Jamie winked, then turned to the cute stranger. "Hey, but you can't beat my friend here at ring toss. Alex has the steadiest hands in town." I wanted the ground to open up and swallow me whole. The stranger turned, surprised, then smiled, a full, radiant smile this time. "Is that so?" he asked, his voice warm and slightly teasing. "Well, I never back down from a challenge." He extended his hand. "I'm Eli." "Alex," I managed, taking his hand. His palm was warm against mine, the handshake lingering just a second longer than necessary. "So, Alex with the steady hands," Eli said, "shall we see who's better at this completely rigged carnival game?" And just like that, I was caught up in a ring toss competition with the most attractive man I'd seen in months. My friends stood to the side, not even pretending they weren't watching with interest. Eli's friends were more subtle, but I could feel their curious glances. "Ladies first," Eli said, then immediately looked embarrassed. "I mean, I don't want to assume." "It's fine," I laughed, feeling some of my nervousness ease at his flustered expression. "I'll go first." I took a deep breath, trying to focus on the bottles and not on Eli standing close enough that I could smell his cologne, something woodsy and subtle. I tossed the first ring. It clattered against a bottle and bounced off. "Harder than it looks," Eli said encouragingly. My second toss came closer, almost catching on a bottle before sliding off. The third missed completely. I was down to my last 2 rings when I finally managed to land one, the ring settling around a bottle neck with a satisfying clink. "There you go," Eli cheered, and the genuine excitement in his voice made me smile. My final toss missed, leaving me with 1 successful ring out of 5. "Your turn," I said, stepping back. "Let's see if you can do better." Eli stepped up with confidence, rolling his shoulders as if preparing for an Olympic event rather than a carnival game. "I should warn you," he said, "I've been practicing all summer." His first toss landed perfectly, the ring spinning around the bottle neck before settling. He turned to me with a playful grin. "See? Practice makes perfect." His second toss missed, and he made an exaggerated, disappointed face that made me laugh. His third and fourth tosses both landed, and by the time he was preparing for his final throw, a small crowd had gathered to watch. "No pressure," I teased. Eli winked at me, actually winked, and tossed the final ring. It sailed through the air in a perfect arc and landed squarely on a bottle, making him 3 for 5. "We have a winner," the booth operator announced, gesturing to the prizes hanging from the top of the booth. "Pick your prize, young man." Eli surveyed the options: stuffed animals, plastic toys, and a few more substantial prizes for the bigger winners. His eyes landed on a small trophy, golden plastic with champion emblazoned across the base. "That one," he said, pointing. The operator handed him the trophy, and Eli immediately turned to me, holding it out with a flourish. "For you," he said. I blinked in surprise. "But you won it. And now I'm giving it to you," he replied. Then, with a smile that made my heart skip, he added, "Though if we're being honest, you're the real trophy here." I felt my face flush hot as my friends let out collective oohs behind me. It was such a cheesy line, the kind of thing that would normally make me roll my eyes. But coming from Eli, with his earnest expression and the twinkle in his eyes, it somehow worked. "That was terrible," I said, but I was smiling as I accepted the trophy. "Terribly effective?" he asked hopefully. "The jury's still out on that," I replied, but we both knew the verdict was leaning in his favor. Our friends, seeming to sense the connection forming between us, suggested we all explore the fair together. And just like that, our 2 groups merged, wandering through the fairgrounds as the night deepened. The carnival around us was a sensory explosion, the screams from the roller coaster mingling with laughter and music, the scent of popcorn and sugar hanging in the air, the lights from the rides painting everything in a kaleidoscope of colors. As we walked, Eli and I naturally fell into step beside each other, our hands occasionally brushing in a way that seemed both accidental and deliberate. We talked about everything and nothing: our jobs, he was a music teacher at the local high school, our hobbies, we both loved old sci-fi movies, our favorite fair foods, cotton candy for him, caramel apples for me. "So, graphic design," Eli said as we paused to watch a performance by a fire juggler. "That explains the steady hands comment." "Jamie exaggerates," I replied. "I'm good with details, but I'm not performing surgery or anything." "Still impressive," Eli insisted. "I can barely draw a stick figure. My students make fun of my attempts at drawing musical notes on the board." "I find that hard to believe," I said. "You seem pretty coordinated to me." "Ring toss skills and drawing skills are entirely different domains," he laughed. "But I appreciate your faith in me." There was something so easy about talking to Eli, a natural flow to our conversation that made it feel like we'd known each other much longer than a couple of hours. As the night progressed, I found myself sharing things I normally wouldn't with someone I just met: my passion projects, my dreams of starting my own design studio someday, even the painful breakup that had left me hesitant to date again. He said I was too intense, I explained as we sat on a bench, sharing a funnel cake dusted with powdered sugar. "Apparently being passionate about your work and having opinions is a turnoff." "Sounds like he was intimidated," Eli said. "For what it's worth, I think passion is attractive. It shows you care about something beyond yourself." The sincerity in his voice made me look up from the funnel cake, and I found him watching me with an expression that made my breath catch. There was interest there, certainly, but also something deeper, a genuine curiosity, a desire to understand. "What about you?" I asked, deflecting from the sudden intensity of the moment. "Any relationship horror stories to share?" Eli's expression shifted slightly, a shadow passing over his features. "A few," he admitted. "The most recent ended about 6 months ago." He moved to Chicago for a job and decided long distance wasn't worth the effort. 3 years together, and I got dumped via FaceTime. That's rough, I said, instinctively reaching out to touch his arm. I'm sorry. It's okay, he said, placing his hand over mine for a brief moment. It hurt at the time, but looking back, we wanted different things. He was all about career advancement and moving to bigger cities. I love it here, my students, the community, the small-town vibe. Sometimes people just have different paths. I nodded, understanding all too well. Still doesn't make it hurt any less when those paths diverge. No, Eli agreed. But it does make room for new paths to cross. He looked at me meaningfully, and I felt that flutter in my chest again. Our moment was interrupted by Jamie and the others, returning from the tilt-a-whirl with tales of near disaster and promises that we absolutely had to try it next. Eli and I exchanged a look, half amusement, half disappointment at the interruption. What's next on the agenda? One of Eli's friends asked. Ferris wheel, Eli suggested, his eyes still on me. I haven't been on it yet this year. There was a question in his voice, and I found myself nodding. Ferris wheel sounds perfect. The line for the Ferris wheel was long, but neither of us seemed to mind the wait. Our friends, either through genuine interest in other attractions or a deliberate attempt to give us space, decided to check out the funhouse instead, promising to meet up later. Was that subtle? I asked, watching them walk away. About as subtle as a carnival barker, Eli laughed. But I can't say I mind. The line inched forward, and we continued our conversation, diving deeper into our lives and experiences. Eli told me about his favorite students, the school band he was trying to revitalize, his dream of starting a community music program for underprivileged kids. I shared my frustrations with my current job, the portfolio I was building on the side, the graphic novel I'd been illustrating in my spare time. I'd love to see it sometime, Eli said, his interest clearly genuine. It's not ready for public consumption, I warned. It's still pretty rough. I bet it's amazing, he insisted. And I promised to be a kind critic. By the time we reached the front of the line, the night had deepened, the fair glowing even brighter against the darkness. The Ferris wheel operator ushered us into a car, closing the safety bar across our laps. With a slight jerk, we began to ascend, the sounds of the fair growing more distant as we rose into the night sky. The view was breathtaking, the entire fairground spread out below us, a tapestry of lights and movement. Beyond that, the small town where we both lived, its streets and buildings illuminated in the darkness. And further still, the countryside, a patchwork of fields fading into the horizon. It's beautiful, I said softly. It is, Eli agreed, but when I turned to look at him, he was watching me, not the view. Our car reached the top of the wheel and paused as other passengers were loaded below. We were suspended between earth and sky, the moment stretching out like the view before us. Can I ask you something? Eli said, his voice quiet but clear in our private bubble above the world. Of course. Is this, he gestured between us, just a carnival thing? A one-night connection that ends when the fair packs up and leaves town? Or could it be something more? The directness of his question took me by surprise, but I appreciated it. After months of healing from my last relationship, I'd become wary of games and unclear intentions. I'd like it to be something more, I admitted. But I should be honest, I'm still a bit guarded after my last relationship. I don't want to rush into anything. Eli nodded, understanding in his eyes. I get that. I'm not looking to rush either. But I'd like to see where this could go, at whatever pace feels right. The Ferris wheel began to move again, our car descending slowly. I'd like that too, I said, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness at the prospect. As we neared the bottom of the wheel, Eli reached over and took my hand, his fingers intertwining with mine. It was a simple gesture, but it felt significant, a promise, a beginning. But just as our car approached the loading platform, I noticed a group of teenagers pointing and snickering in our direction. One of them made a crude gesture, and another called out something I couldn't quite hear but could easily guess the content of. I felt Eli tense beside me, his hand tightening briefly around mine before he let go. The operator opened our safety bar, and we stepped out, the moment tarnished by the reminder that not everyone saw our connection as something beautiful. Ignore them, I said quietly as we walked away. They're just kids being stupid. I know, Eli replied, but his expression had clouded. It's just, as a teacher, I see this kind of thing all the time. The casual cruelty, the way some people react to anything they perceive as different. It gets to me sometimes. I understood his reaction all too well. In our small town, acceptance had grown over the years, but pockets of intolerance remained. For a moment, I worried that this incident might have spoiled the evening, might have made Eli reconsider the connection forming between us. "Hey," I said, stopping and turning to face him. "Don't let them steal this night from us." Eli looked at me, something vulnerable in his expression. "It's not just about tonight," he said. "It's about, if we do pursue this, if we do become something more, it means dealing with that kind of thing sometimes. And as a teacher, I have to be extra careful about my personal life. The school board is supportive, but parents can be complicated." I felt a flicker of hurt at what sounded like backpedaling. "Are you saying you've changed your mind?" "No," Eli said quickly, reaching for my hand again. "Not at all. I want to be transparent about the challenges. I've had relationships before where the other person wasn't prepared for the scrutiny that can come with dating someone in my position in a town this size. I understood then that his hesitation wasn't about me or us. It was about past hurts, past experiences where openness had led to pain. It was something I could relate to all too well. "Eli," I said, squeezing his hand, "I've lived in this town my whole life. I know exactly what it's like. And yes, there are narrow-minded people here, but there are also wonderful, accepting people who would be thrilled to see us happy. I'm not afraid of a few judgmental stares if it means getting to know you better." The tension in his shoulders eased, and that smile I was quickly becoming addicted to returned. "You're right," he said, "and I'm sorry for letting them get to me. It's just, this feels important, you know? Like something worth protecting." "I know exactly what you mean," I replied, warmth spreading through me at his words. We rejoined our friends, who were emerging from the funhouse with tales of mirror mazes and rotating tunnels. If they noticed the brief tension between us, they didn't mention it, instead suggesting we check out the live music playing at the main stage. As we walked toward the sound of a local band covering classic rock hits, Eli leaned close to me. "I'm sorry about that moment of doubt," he said quietly. "Old insecurities die hard." "You don't need to apologize," I assured him. "We're both carrying baggage from the past. It's normal." "Still," he said, "I want you to know that I meant what I said on the Ferris wheel. I want to see where this goes." The band was playing a cover of an old love song as we reached the stage area, the lead singer's voice carrying over the crowd. Without hesitation, Eli took my hand again, this time with a confidence that sent a thrill through me. It was a small act of defiance against the teenagers, against anyone who might judge us, against our own past hurts and fears. We found a spot near the back of the crowd, swaying slightly to the music. Our friends drifted closer to the stage, leaving us in our own little bubble once again. As the song reached its chorus, Eli turned to face me, his expression open and hopeful. "May I?" he asked, gesturing in a way that suggested he wanted to put his arms around me. In answer, I stepped closer, allowing him to wrap his arms around my waist as mine found their way around his shoulders. We weren't quite dancing, more like swaying together in time with the music, but it felt intimate, significant. "This wasn't how I expected this evening to go," I admitted, looking up at him. "Me neither," Eli said. "I almost didn't come tonight. My friends practically had to drag me here." I laughed. "Same. Seems like we both have pushy friends to thank." "Remind me to buy them all thank you gifts," Eli said, his eyes crinkling at the corners as he smiled. As the band transitioned to another song, slower and more romantic than the last, Eli's expression grew more serious. "Can I kiss you?" he asked, his voice barely audible over the music. My heart raced as I nodded, and then his lips were on mine, gentle and questioning at first, then more certain as I responded. The kiss was everything a first kiss should be: sweet, a little tentative, full of promise. When we pulled apart, I saw my own wonder reflected in his eyes. "Definitely buying those thank you gifts," he murmured, making me laugh. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of shared experiences, trying our luck at more carnival games. He won at the basketball toss, I triumphed at the duck pond, sharing a caramel apple, my favorite, riding the carousel side by side on ornately painted horses. Through it all, there was a growing sense of connection, of possibility, of something taking root between us. As the fair began to wind down, the announcement came that the fireworks display would begin in 15 minutes, the traditional end to each night of the carnival. "Best viewing spot is the hill behind the Ferris wheel," Eli said, taking my hand. "If you're interested, lead the way," I replied. We said temporary goodbyes to our friends, who had their own plans for watching the fireworks, and made our way to the hill Eli had mentioned. It was less crowded than I expected, with just a few other couples and families spread out on the grassy slope. Eli took off his jacket and spread it on the ground for us to sit on, a gesture so thoughtful and old-fashioned that it made me smile. We sat close together, his arm around my shoulders, my head resting against him as we waited for the show to begin. I keep thinking about what you said earlier, Eli said, his voice thoughtful. About not letting anyone steal this night from us. What about it? I asked, looking up at him. It made me realize something, he continued. I've spent so much time worrying about what other people think, parents of my students, the school board, random strangers, that I've been holding parts of myself back. Not just in relationships, but in life generally. I nodded, understanding completely. It's easy to fall into that pattern, especially in a small town where everyone knows everyone's business. Exactly, Eli said. But when you said that, it was like, why am I giving strangers that power? Why am I letting their potential judgment dictate my happiness? The first firework exploded above us, a burst of red and gold against the night sky. We both looked up, momentarily distracted by the spectacle. So what are you saying? I asked as more fireworks illuminated the darkness, casting colorful shadows across Eli's face. I'm saying, he replied, looking back at me with determination in his eyes, that I don't want to hide this, us, if there's going to be in U.S. I don't want to be secretive or ashamed or constantly looking over my shoulder. I want to be able to hold your hand in the grocery store or kiss you goodbye at a restaurant without worrying who might see. My heart swelled at his words. I want that too, I said. And for what it's worth, I think most people in this town are better than you're giving them credit for. The ones who aren't, well, their opinion doesn't matter anyway. Eli smiled, pulling me closer as another burst of fireworks lit up the sky. You know, he said, when I won that trophy and gave it to you, it wasn't just a cheesy line. No. I asked, raising an eyebrow. No, he confirmed. It was me recognizing that I'd found someone, far more valuable than any carnival prize. Meeting you tonight feels like winning something I didn't even know I was competing for. Under normal circumstances, such earnest declarations might have made me uncomfortable, might have seemed too much too soon. But there was something about this night, about Eli, that made the usual rules feel irrelevant. Sometimes connections form quickly, deeply, defying the conventional timeline of getting to know someone. I feel the same way, I admitted. Like the universe conspired to bring us both to the same ring toss booth at the same moment. The universe, or our very determined friends, Eli laughed. The fireworks reached their finale, a rapid succession of explosions filling the sky with light and color. As the last one faded, leaving only smoke and echoes, a sense of conclusion settled over the fairgrounds. The carnival would continue for 2 more nights, but for us, this evening felt complete, a perfect, self-contained beginning. So what happens now? I asked as we stood, Eli shaking out his jacket before putting it back on. Now, he said, taking both my hands in his, I ask for your number, and we make plans to see each other again. Maybe dinner tomorrow? Or is that too soon? Tomorrow sounds perfect, I replied, feeling a flutter of anticipation at the thought. We exchanged phones, entering our contact information. When he handed my phone back, I saw he'd entered his name as Eli, Trophy Guy, with a trophy emoji next to it. I laughed, showing him the screen. Just so you don't confuse me with all the other Ellis who win you prizes at carnivals, he explained with a grin. As we walked back toward the main area of the fair to meet up with our friends, the carnival around us beginning to shut down for the night, I found myself filled with a sense of possibility that had been missing from my life for too long. The plastic trophy Eli had won me was tucked safely in my bag, a tangible reminder of this night, this beginning. You know, Eli said as we reached the meeting point where our friends were waiting, I think this might be my favorite fair ever. Mine too, I agreed, squeezing his hand. And it's only just beginning. As we said our goodbyes, with promises to text and confirm our plans for the next day, I couldn't help but think about the strange, wonderful randomness of life, how a night I'd been reluctant to participate in had transformed into something magical, how a chance meeting at a ring toss booth had potentially changed the course of my future. The carnival would pack up and leave town at the end of the week, the field returning to its usual emptiness until next summer. But what had begun here tonight would continue, would grow and evolve beyond the fairgrounds, beyond the bright lights and the games of chance. The real prize wasn't the plastic trophy in my bag. It was the connection we'd found, the possibility we'd created together. And as Eli kissed me goodnight, a promise of tomorrow in his eyes, I knew with certainty that this was just the first chapter of our story, a story that had begun with a carnival game and a cheesy line, but would extend far beyond the fairgrounds. Into a future bright with possibility. Total _char_count, 17,824.